John, straight to you. Was Jack Wilshere right to say only English people should play for England?
Well, it depends what your interpretation of English people are.
Yeah, exactly.
So, as I think Alan Shearer's come out and said you have to be born in England to play, which I don't agree with.
Because you weren't.
Neither was Terry Butcher. He was born in Singapore, and he's as English as they come. But I think what Jack meant, if you were to question him further, or my interpretation of what he meant, was that if you're looking at the case of Adnan Januzaj, which is very difficult to say. I don't believe that a 16-year-old who plays...
He plays for Manchester United,
yes, but he was playing for Anderlecht before, and he came here to play football, and then 5 years later he can play for England, because with myself, with Raheem Sterling, with Wilfred Zaha, we came here because we came here to live. And after being here for a period of time, we then developed our football here, and then we played for England. Sure. So I agree with Jack Wilshere, if that's what he meant, and I'm sure that's what he meant. He didn't mean that, you know, if you came here too, you shouldn't play for England.
What did you make of his comments?
I agree with John. I think it's been a little bit blown out of proportion and taken out of context. And I don't think you have to be born here to play for England. We've got a couple of players in our squad that weren't born in England and play for England and are very passionate about that.
So let's get... You don't have to be... Obviously, if you are born here, automatically you can play. But you don't have to be born here. So what should the criterion be that determines if you can play for England?
Very much if you can get a British passport, whatever the laws are. But the interesting thing for me is Greg Dyke and the FA's take on this, because on one hand they are complaining that there are too many foreign players at the highest level
in the Premier
League, which is stifling the growth of the English players to play for England. So Roy Hodgson doesn't have that. But on the other hand, he's then saying, but if we can exercise a law to get 16-year-olds to be in the country from to then play, they want to be all things to all men. So for the FA to come out and say that, when they have a responsibility, not just to the English football team, they've got a responsibility to grassroots as well. What message are they sending to the young kids playing in Regent's Park and in Peckham and all over, to say that you can then grow up to play, but however, when the best Italian 16-year-old comes here, we're going to have him for 5 years and he's then going to play for England. So the FA, I think, are wrong to push that.
Does it make a difference what age you come to this country?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you and I think it makes the reasons you come here to this country make a big difference. And obviously, if you come over at 16, 17, you know, I don't think that you've grown up here. No one's invested any time into you. So, you know, I think it's different. And he came, obviously, Adnan came here to play football. And like John said, I think, you know, maybe that's not the right way to look at it.
Your parents were Jamaican. You were born in Jamaica, and you were brought up partly in Jamaica. Is that what age?
I came when I was 12 and a half.
Right.
But I didn't come here to play football. I think the point I'm making and the point Jack is making is that if you come here, because these players who are coming here at 16 are superstar footballers in their own country.
Already.
The Fabregas was a superstar 15-year-old, Dan Nielsen, and Dan
John,
is also.
Aren't the rules that you have to be here 5 years after the age 18?
Birthday.
So kids coming at 13, is that, yes, so you have to get to 18 first and then spend 5 years here.
Absolutely. So therefore I don't think that's going to be an issue.
Absolutely.
It's not a problem. So if you come here at 12 and you're not affiliated with a club, you haven't come here to play football, but if you come here as a 16, 17-year-old, already a professional footballer, already, you know, of a certain quality in Italy, Spain, Belgium, then all of a sudden, because of your quality, we then say you can play for us. And as I said, from the player's perspective, I would love that as a 16-year-old Albanian.
Should they be allowed to play if they stay here for a long while, even if they come at that age? Or in your view, should they never be allowed to?
No, I think that you're sending the wrong message. I think that from the FA's point of view, I think the FA has to say that we believe that we have to develop our own talent, whatever our own talent is. However, Fabregas at 15, 16 coming here, we haven't developed him. He was already a superstar when he came. So I think it's not just when they come, but at the stage of their footballing development.
But John, you may then find yourself in a difficult position if you've got a player who has acquired a British passport, and then you're saying that he still can't play for a national team.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that the FA has to make the rule from their perspective, but they can't have it both ways. They can't complain about the foreign players in the Premier League and then say we're trying to exercise this rule, because they can choose who they want. And I think that other countries try to retain a particular identity. The Catalans, the Germans, they say we want to retain our identity, so therefore we will not do that. But in England, it seems that we are willing to just give up our identity for the sake of success.
And in the national teams, it would be nice to have an antidote to what's happening in the clubs. You know, quite a lot of people are fed up that, you know, their local club is actually, 10 players out of 11 come from foreign countries. So at least in the national team, to see people who've grown up inside the system.
The pressure to break the rules, though, to bend the rules, is pretty huge. If you want, I mean, it's hard to say no to the chance of getting a Kevin Peterson.
Yeah, I
or
think
to getting
so.
a John Barnes, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think everybody craves success, and in this country we crave success on an international level of football because we haven't had it for so long. So, but that's a short-term fix.
But football is different to cricket and rugby and other sports, because in cricket, in the football you have 30% of players at club in the first teams who are English, 70% are foreign. I don't think in cricket you have that problem. So for every Kevin Peterson or rugby player or Mo Farah, you aren't disempowering and not giving an English kid an opportunity because they are still being brought through.
It's one of the interesting things that happens to a country, though, when it becomes an immigrant nation and the population is far, far more diverse than it was even 30 or 40 years ago. That when I was a kid and went to football matches, all the players were white. They were all British. Well, in my case, they were all Scottish.
Smith.
I remember the Celtic team,
team.
the famous team in 1968. I think every one of Jock Stevens' team that won the European Cup had been born like in 30 miles of the ground.
Less than that, I think.
Now, it's a different world.
But if you get someone like Ibrahimovic, who was an immigrant to Sweden, paid for the national team, I mean, that's not the issue. The other thing is, who's to say that we're the only country that are patriotic? I mean, there was no chance of Fabregas playing for England. He always wanted to play for Spain. Yeah. This kid who's just made there's the fusses about for Man United, he might well want to play for Belgium. Or why do we think that they haven't got a tie to their home country?
Adnan has said that he hasn't said he wants to play for England. In
fact,
he
hasn't said it at all.
He may want to play for Albania, and he's actually more likely to play for Belgium.
No, it hasn't, not yet. But obviously, with the Women's League changing, there are more obviously international players. Yeah.
Borders. In politics, it doesn't happen very often, and I say that knowing the case of Peter Hain and Gisela Stewart as well. Peter Hain, South Africa; Gisela Stewart, German. But in a sense, they're almost the exceptions that prove the rule.
Boris Johnson, born in New York. So if there was a rule
of Turkish origin too,
you can tell from his Brooklyn accent that he's from New York.
Very much like in politics, as in these other sports I mentioned, it isn't 70% of foreign politicians or foreign cricketers or foreign rugby players coming in, but in football, that is the situation. So football is a special case rather than these other sports.
Don't you think that most Brits watching just think, well, actually, as long as we win. As long as the English cricket team wins, the English football, well, that'll be the day. But the rugby team and the cricket team and our Olympic stars.
The Germans didn't say that. In 2002, they said we have to develop young German players, and look how good they are now.
And they have.
Look at Bayern.
Want to retain their identity, and neither with Barcelona. They have to have that Catalan identity.
That's the issue.
We have to leave it there.